For generations, we've been taught to expect the great deceiver, the counterfeit Christ, to emerge as a powerful politician or a charismatic religious figure. Have you ever considered that we might be looking for the wrong person? What if the Bible points to someone entirely different? What if the ultimate deception comes not through a speech, but through a song? Let's dive into the scriptures, because there's a fascinating and often overlooked thread weaving its way through prophecy. It's the theme of music, craft, and deception. The Bible might just be describing a Pied Piper figure, someone who will captivate the world with his art. Consider Daniel 8:25. It says, "And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand." We often interpret craft as deceit or trickery, which is true. But craft also means skill, artistry, workmanship. Musicians today constantly refer to their work as their craft. What if this verse has a dual meaning? What if his primary tool of deception is, in fact, his craft, his music? This idea isn't isolated. It gains incredible strength when we look at the origin of the being known as Lucifer. Isaiah 14 describes his fall from heaven. "Your pomp is brought down to Sheol, and the sound of your stringed instruments. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning." Notice what was brought down with him: his pomp and the sound of his stringed instruments. His musical essence is directly linked to his identity and his fall. Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 13, gives us an even more stunning detail about Lucifer's creation. "The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in the day that thou wast created." Think about that. Musical instruments were literally built into his very being. He wasn't just a musician, he was music. He was the chief worship leader in heaven, designed to direct praise towards God through his incredible musical ability. After his fall, do we really think he abandoned his most powerful, inherent talent? Or would he twist it for his own purpose, to steal the worship that belongs to God and direct it toward himself? This is the ultimate counterfeit. History gives us a chilling example of music being used for false worship. Remember King Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel chapter 3. He built a giant golden image and commanded everyone to bow down and worship it. And what was the trigger for this mass act of idolatry? The music. The decree was specific, that at what time they hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image. The music wasn't just background noise, it was the mechanism of control, the hypnotic signal that compelled obedience. It was a mass brainwashing event, orchestrated by sound. This pattern of music, worship, and deception echoes into the end times. Look at Revelation 18, which describes the fall of the great city, Babylon. The judgment is described as a silencing. Verse 22 says, "The sound of harpists, musicians, flutists, and trumpeters shall not be heard in you any more. No craftsman of any craft shall be found in you any more." Why is the cessation of music and craft such a prominent part of Babylon's final judgment? It's because music and craft were central to its identity, its power, and its deception. When God judges the system, he silences the very source of its seductive power. The party, quite literally, is over. So, why do we remain so fixed on the idea of a political or religious figure? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 tells us that this man of sin is hidden and will be revealed at the appointed time. Perhaps he is hidden in plain sight, in a role we are not conditioned to suspect. We're scanning the political landscape, watching world summits and religious councils, while the real threat could be building a global platform in a completely different arena. We've seen glimpses of this power in our own lifetime. Think about the massive global influence wielded by musicians. Figures like Bono or Bob Geldof started as rock stars and became major players on the world stage, influencing policy and mobilizing millions for humanitarian causes. They achieved a level of global adoration and influence that many presidents and prime ministers could only dream of. They proved that you don't need a traditional political platform to command the world's attention and affection. Now, imagine that kind of influence amplified to a supernatural level. Imagine a musical messiah, a figure who appears on the world stage with a talent that is otherworldly, magnetic, and seemingly divine. An artist whose music doesn't just entertain but seems to heal, to unite, to bring peace. His lyrics speak of love, unity, and a better world, all the things a broken humanity is desperate to hear. He would be seen not as a threat, but as a savior. His concerts would be like global worship services, uniting people across all cultures, religions, and political divides. He wouldn't need to conquer with armies. He would conquer with melodies. He would captivate the hearts and minds of billions, who would willingly give him their devotion. This is the power of the Pied Piper. The legend tells of a piper who used his magical pipe to lure the rats out of the town of Hamlet. But when the townspeople refused to pay him, he used that same pipe to lure away their children. It's a story of a charismatic figure using his gift to lead others to their doom. It's a perfect metaphor. This coming figure won't need to argue theology or debate policy. He will simply play his song, and the world will follow. His craft, the very music that was once for God's glory, will become the instrument of the world's greatest deception. As the famous song Stairway to Heaven hauntingly says, "There's a feeling I get when I look to the west, and my spirit is crying for leaving. And a new day will dawn for those who stand long, and the forests will echo with laughter, and the pipers calling you to join him." The scriptures are screaming with these references, urging us to listen with spiritual ears, not just intellectual reasoning. It's time to reconsider. Are we watching the right stage? Are we prepared for a deception that appeals not to our minds, but directly to our hearts and souls through the universal language of music? The Pied Piper is coming, and his song will be irresistible to those who don't know the voice of the true shepherd. Will the counterfeit Christ be a Jew, a Roman, or a Greek? It's a question that has sparked debate for centuries. And today we're going to dive deep into the scriptures to uncover what they really say. Many believe the Antichrist will be Roman, but what if the majority of Christendom has been looking in the wrong direction? Let's explore the evidence together. In Matthew chapter 24, Jesus gives a crucial warning. He says, "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains." Notice, Jesus points us directly to the prophet Daniel. Now, this is where a common misunderstanding begins. Most commentators immediately jump to Daniel chapter 9, verse 26. It reads, "And the people of the prince to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary." This prophecy was historically fulfilled in 70 AD when the Roman general Titus destroyed Jerusalem and the temple. Because a Roman is mentioned here, many conclude that the future Antichrist, the one who brings the final abomination of desolation, must also be Roman. But is that the whole story? What's fascinating is that the very first mention of the abomination of desolation in Daniel is not in chapter 9. It's in the chapter right before it, Daniel chapter 8. For some reason, this chapter is often overlooked, but it lays a critical foundation for understanding this prophecy. Let's read from Daniel 8, starting at verse 8. It says, "Therefore the male goat grew very great, but when he became strong, the large horn was broken, and in place of it 4 notable ones came up toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came a little horn, which grew exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the glorious land." The prophecy continues, describing how this little horn will rise to great power. It will even challenge the prince of the host, take away the daily sacrifices, and desecrate the sanctuary. Verse 13 then explicitly asks, how long will the vision be? Concerning the daily sacrifices and the transgression of desolation, the giving of both the sanctuary and the host to be trampled underfoot. The text itself connects this little horn directly to the transgression of desolation. So, the key to identifying the Antichrist is to identify this little horn. Who does it represent? Thankfully, the Bible doesn't leave us guessing. The angel provides the interpretation just a few verses later in the same chapter. In Daniel chapter 8, verses 21 and 22, the explanation is crystal clear, and the male goat is the kingdom of Greece. The large horn that is between its eyes is the first king. As for the broken horn and the 4 that stood up in its place, 4 kingdoms shall arise out of that nation, but not with its power. There it is, plain as day. The male goat, from which the little horn emerges, is the kingdom of Greece. The first king, the large horn, was Alexander the Great. After his death, his empire was split among his 4 generals, represented by the 4 horns. The prophecy tells us that the Antichrist figure, the little horn, will arise from one of these Greek successor kingdoms. But the prophecy doesn't stop there. It looks far into the future. Let's read verses 23 to 25. "And in the latter time of their kingdom, a king shall arise, having fierce features, who understands sinister schemes. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He shall destroy fearfully, and shall prosper and thrive. He shall destroy the mighty, and also the holy people. He shall exalt himself in his heart. He shall even rise against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without human means." This description has a dual fulfillment. Historically, a figure named Antiochus Epiphanes, a Greek king from the Seleucid dynasty, rose to power. He persecuted the Jews, desecrated the temple, and even called himself Theos Epiphanes, which means God manifest. He was a shadow, a foreshadowing of the final Antichrist. This historical fulfillment gives us a pattern for what to expect in the end times. The final Antichrist will also be a Greek leader who, just like Antiochus, will exalt himself as God. This aligns perfectly with what the Apostle Paul wrote in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. He describes the man of sin as one who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. The evidence from Daniel chapter 8 is compelling. It suggests that the Antichrist will not be Roman or Jewish, but will emerge from a Greek background. This could be one of the primary reasons why this figure remains hidden in plain sight, because so many are looking for a Roman leader based on a partial reading of Daniel 9, while overlooking the foundational prophecy in Daniel 8. The Bible gives us these prophecies not to scare us, but to prepare us so that we will not be deceived.